Got a question from someone. They're lacking motivation. They're down in themselves. They're like, man, I'm not motivated. And I said, that's the problem. You're seeking motivation. You need to look for inspiration. There is a difference. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Yellow Chair Podcast with X, where we deep dive into the stories that drive our lives. All right, welcome to the Yellow Chair. Let's get storified. Motivation versus inspiration. Are we just grasping at straws when we're talking about motivation versus inspiration? Are we just making up some shit that don't really matter? I think you could argue that case, but I do believe if we're trying to optimize the very best of ourselves and put in place a strategy that allows us to touch the heights of our potential, then understanding some of these nuances, some of these esoteric details can matter. And what I find is that because we have the wrong strategy, oftentimes we put ourselves in a position where, like the person I was speaking to, we feel like we're not showing up. We feel like it's our fault. We feel like we are not enough. And I've been there myself. And ultimately, sometimes, that's crazy, right? It comes down to just having the wrong strategy around the story that we have and that we're running, the script, right? We're looking for something, bringing it into our lives and thinking that it will provide when it falls short. And we have such faith in the thing that we're bringing into our lives, that new story, that new script, that the only thing that we can blame is ourselves at that point, right? But maybe, just maybe, it's not all you. It has to do with the story and the script and this idea of seeking motivation when the recipe that you should be looking to put into play and to cook up is inspiration. Now let's dive into it real quick. What is motivation? Well, I'm a nerd in all this space, so let's define it. I went to etymology.com. I love to look at the root of a word. The root, here it is, motivation, 1873, the act or process of furnishing with an incentive or inducement to action. As much as these definitions excite me, I do recognize that it doesn't matter how they're defined. What matters is what we believe. But that key word, inducement to action, is kind of the foundation of being motivated. There is something external pushing us to act, right? We are motivated. We feel this impulse. You ever feel it like a jolt? You're motivated. You read a book, you listen to a podcast like the Yellow Chair, whatever the case may be, and you feel motivated in that moment. There's a rush of energy that comes with motivation, right? Because motivation is highly emotional. And emotion is just energy in motion. So something in you is pushing, is raring to go. So that's the key. And we love it. We feel good. It's like drinking a cup of coffee. Motivation feels good. We feel like we can accomplish more. We feel more confident. We feel more in tune. Who doesn't want to be, quote unquote, motivated, induced to action? But there's a caveat here. Emotion, energy in motion, means it is something that is moving, going away. It dissipates, it disappears. It's a finite resource. And because it's coming from outside of us, it's hard to what? Replenish and to rely upon, especially when times are tough, especially when we need it most. Motivation is a fickle beast, right? So when we get down and out, things become tough. We don't have that caffeinated beverage to lean into or to tap into, i.e. the book, the quote, the X, whoever is in charge of giving you that source of energy. Because look, at the end of the day, and this is another thing too, as it relates to the brain chemistry, let me digress a second before I go into it. The things that motivate us, the dopamine reaction, the synapses become dull, right? After being fired and on all the time, like we're drinking caffeine, what happens? Our body becomes desensitized to it. We no longer have the same impact or effect from the same dosage of caffeine. So we have to do what? Bring on more caffeine, right? To get the same stimulus. The same thing happens here with motivation. What was motivating will not be motivating, say, a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks from now. It will dissipate over time because the stimulus, right, the neurochemistry in the brain, right, the synapses where we process the euphoria and all the other stuff that comes from the hormonal reactions, they become desensitized, right, to the same level of stimulation. Thus, what? It falls short. And we're wondering why. Why isn't X having the same impact? I'm wondering that too. I should be. But seriously, the thing that you're calling on, it will not motivate you as much. This is why relationships fall apart. You have all of that butterflies and all of that tingly energy in motion. You feel real motivated, right? Everything's new and exciting and fresh, right? Everything, right? But what happens? Same old shit, same every day. Nothing changed, but you changed. Your capacity to generate euphoria and pleasure from the same stimulus has dissipated, and thus you may be associating that to what? Your relationship being broken, or something not being off, or that other person not being the right one for you. Well, hey, you're through the honeymoon phase. You're through that part of where almost anything someone says or does is cute and funny and laughable. You hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. Right? We all been through that. But this is analogous to motivation in our lives in every area. If we're looking to improve our performance at work, or we're looking to make more money, we're looking to lose weight, we're looking to become better at something. The euphoria and motivation, the tingly feelings that come with it are short-lived. They aren't used, or they're not for long-term usage. They're more like a jumpstart to a battery, right? Your battery died and you need a jumpstart? That's what motivation is. Get you started. Boom, a spark. But you can't rely upon a jumpstart every freaking single day, right? You can't rely upon that jumpstart at every single situation and every turn, right? It's not only inefficient, but it will slow you down because ultimately what? That spark, you're going to have to keep escalating it up, right? That's hard to do. And then number two, that spark, that juice, that battery, it can't be found sometimes. What if you can't tap into that person? What if you can't read this thing? What if you can't access this external thing in your life? Now what? You're stuck on the side of the road waiting for a tow truck to come. And that's what the shortfall of motivation is. But don't let me kill it or crush it completely, because it is an important part of our overall strategy for optimizing our own performance, our success, our happiness, and fulfillment. Having something that motivates us, an external prize, right? Something extrinsic, something that we want to win, a target. These are all important parts to us being successful, being fulfilled, being happy. But we need more. And that's where inspiration comes in. Let's get back to the nerdy part of it. Let's talk about inspiration, its etymology, right? When we look at where the word comes from, the root Latin, it speaks to this idea of being divine, right? The immediate influence of God, right? God in your life. Like it means literally translated blow into, to breathe upon, breath, or put life or spirit into the human body, to impart reason to the human soul. So we're talking about something internal, something bigger, something greater, more than just this ephemeral, emotional, cutely, cuddly coo, if that's a thing. It's deeper, all right? The act of inhaling. Like if you take the breath away, what do you have? Nothing. It is essential. It's foundational. In this sense, inspiration goes deeper to the root. Also, I would argue that inspiration, the breathing into, isn't just the ephemeral, topical surface emotion. There's also some intellectual connection, a decision to connect to something of grander and greater purpose. So if we go back to our D line, and we talked about this in another podcast, our D line in controlling our destiny, we have this desire, right, an emotional impulse. Then you have to have decision. Decide whether that thing is for you, then become devoted to it, meaning amping up the emotional connection to it, changing your direction, and then ultimately changing your doing. And then that ultimately puts you in a position to alter your destiny, the D line. So inspiration is not just in this sense a pure emotional thing. It's installed at an intellectual, conscious level almost. Often we have decided that this is the thing, this is the target, this is what I truly want, this is meaningful to me. Then we become emotionally devoted to it. Another key thing about inspiration is that it comes from inside, meaning it's yours, thus reliable, sustainable, and dependable, right? Inspiration, instead of pushing you like motivation does, motivation pushes us often into things that we don't truly want. Have you ever been motivated to do something or chase something because you were all amped up by somebody or something? And then immediately when that somebody or something wasn't there, you're like, what am I doing? Why? I don't even want this. Inspiration, instead of pushing you, pulls you. It is an attraction. And thus you're not trying to grind yourself into it, right? You're being pulled, quite literally. It's magnetized to you. Why? Because it's for you. Why? Because it's connected to you in a more profound, deeper way. And that way that it's connected to you is that inspiration isn't just a extrinsic, external thing. It's a deeply intrinsic, internal thing that you identify with. It's identity. The pursuit of this idea, this ethic, is to edify who you believe you are. So inspiration is more connected to the story that you believe about yourself. And we're much, much, much less likely to put down inspiration when it's connected to our own internal ideal of self. We don't want that cognitive bias of believing we are something or wanting to be something truly and fully sitting on us by not acting in accord with it. So it has a much deeper latch to who we are and what we believe in our sense of self. That's inspiration. So you can see the difference between the two here, that motivation is short-lived while inspiration is longer-lived. And both of these worlds coming together is what we really want. We want to be able to take the shot of caffeine when we need it to jumpstart us and spark us into wherever we're going. Remember I talk about the 3 R's of routine, rituals, and reinforcements? Well, your motivation bucket should be a reinforcement thing. Like, boom, I can reinforce myself when I'm falling down through a shot of motivation from some external thing that will remind me and put me into the space where I can galvanize the energy and motivation to go get it, to reverse the trajectory of going downhill. That could be motivating. So for example, if you don't feel motivated to go exercise, you probably won't, right? I just don't feel motivated. When you have inspiration, you will go, I may not feel like it, but I'm going to go anyway because my identity i.e., I believe I'm an athlete. I believe this is important to me. I've connected this to who I am as a man. I've connected this to who I am as a woman. The act of exercising gives me definitive proof and a vote for who I want to be, who I believe I am. So I go anyway, whether I'm motivated or not. That's the relationship. You'll exercise when you're motivated. You won't unless you have inspiration. But also, look, here it is. You can create the spark of motivation to go exercise in the moment to get you going. So for me, for example, I'm traditionally not a morning person, but for me to get up at 4 a.m. and do my stuff and then go exercise at 4:30, 4:45, I drink a cup of coffee, right? It is quite literally energy in motion. Boom. I feel it. And my inspiration, which I was going to do anyway, I was going to grind it out. They work in synergy. I go get it done. And the same thing for you. What can you put into your life strategically to give you that emotional juice to be motivated? But more important than that is having the ground floor foundational idea of inspiration installed into your life. So That's something to think about. What is that you truly want, and how do you start to find that deeper connection to a thing? If you're constantly falling short because you don't have motivation, it has nothing to do with you and your capacity or your intellect or your intelligence, or probably not even your work ethic. It's that you don't truly want it. It's not for you. And it's not for you. Why? Because it's not inspired. It has been given to you from an external source. And when that external source disappears or dissipates, quite naturally, has nothing to do with the thing that you're being motivated by or you, is the natural relationship between the stimulation of something external to our senses and how the neurochemistry of the brain works. It will over time not have the same impact, the same euphoria, the same triggering of emotions and desire and all the other stuff. It's not you. It's just how the brain works. So, look, you got to go back to some of the other podcasts before we get deeper into how to really stoke that story, that purpose, that why. But I did want to give you the kind of the blueprint of thinking about this. Inspiration is the fuel of choice to be consistent. Motivation is the fuel of choice to be intense, to really push you when you need it most, especially when you're going to go all out. Also, motivational tools or things in your life can be used for your reinforcement protocols to really help you to get going. All right. So I'm gonna leave it there and say this last thing before I get out of here. One of the things that, growing up, I've seen a lot of people in my life who are very passionate about what they do. They love it. They're happy. They're optimism, meaning they're highly motivated around it. But they fell short because there wasn't any inspiration, a true, deep, enduring connection to purpose. And I'll give you an example this way. I was able to come up out of Oakland in the ghetto being a pretty good athlete. But the truth of the matter is I sucked as an athlete. I wasn't as good as half of the guys around me. They were far better. I had to try my hardest just to keep up. But one thing I had that they didn't was purpose. So while they may be the best at basketball or football or track and truly loved it and had that motivation energy, they didn't have that purpose-based inspiration energy, the ethic. Meaning when it was no longer fun or it was no longer surface and they had to really grit and grind and find a way to push through the tough stuff, the motivation, passion-based, happy, optimistic, loved energy is not going to win and carry the day. It won't. You're not going to get out of the car, push it uphill on a flat tire based on motivation. You're going to get out of the car and say, this shit broke down, right? Damn, you're going to wait for a tow truck and wait till it's easy and simple. And you can get back in the car, the tires are working, the battery is started, and things are running. That's the difference. And that's the only difference between, say, where I am today, I believe, and where some of my close friends have ended up. Far more talented, far more capable, far more in tuned to or gifted, really, in as it relates to their talents. Not even just sports-wise, I'm talking about even intellectually. But there's something about that purpose, grind, and inspiration that gives you the leg up. So no more beating yourself up and thinking that you're not who you say you are. You just may have the wrong fuel source tied in. You may be looking for motivation and it's falling short because it's not the right fuel source to keep you going day by day by day by day. Fight to find inspiration, true, enduring, internal, intrinsic connection to purpose and meaning, your what, your why. And I promise you, that will not fail you. That will show up every single day, especially when it's hard. And you will no longer start to question whether it's you or this thing outside of you. You'll know, point blank, it is simply a matter of picking up and putting down what you set in front of you, because what is so connected to you that the only choice you have is to pick the shit up and put it down, right? To do another rep. And that's the power of inspiration. And by the way, I'm about to go get some coffee because I'm about to go work out. So I'm out. Take care. Hey fam, thanks again for joining me in the yellow chair. I want to invite you to go even deeper, to take this to the next level by pulling out your phone and texting me at 800-425-2095. That's 800-425-2095. That's my direct number. Type in the word yellow chair. And when you text me, you'll be joining my X Factor weekly insider community where I send out resources to help you to continue to storify your life and to lead your story. So don't miss that opportunity. 800-425-2095. Thanks again for joining me here in the yellow chair. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share these podcasts. We're trying to change 100 million people's lives, and you're a part of that. So thank you again, and I see you in the next yellow chair. I'm out.